Howdy, Mark.
What's up, Trey?
Hey, let's take a brief detour. Mark's in slightly different surroundings. You moved, right? But you moved from one apartment in the same building to another apartment in the same building. So that's
Yeah,
exciting. How's that
we
going?
moved we moved to a two-bedroom because this pandemic's going to be happening until 2028, so we needed more room.
Yeah, needed to pay a little bit more.
Yeah.
Um, well, either way, I'm glad you're here. Glad all of y'all are here. This is Evening Skews. As always, we begin with the daily dumbass, and I don't have much of a preamble for you this evening. Let's just get right into it. Here's the clip. Mark, tell me if you can't hear it.
I said, First Lady, am I the most handsome president ever? Yes, absolutely. I said, who could top me? Well, she said, well, JFK was good looking, but nothing like you. Nothing like you, darling.
Okay. Yeah. We all want to
That's
fuck Trump, don't we, Mark? You dying to fuck Trump. I can see it in your eyes.
it's also like I didn't know we were competing to see who the most fuckable president was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really hard to compete with the sex appeal of John Quincy Adams. I don't really know what we're
Yeah.
doing. I mean, FDR was able to pull his cousin and another lady. I mean, this guy's got. I don't know how we go to rank the sexiness of the presidents. Um,
Now, so I want to so first of all, this it's just so it's so wild to me that he believe like I can't understand the brain of him and people like him because I know that he fully believes this, and you can't really tell from just the clip we just played, but the context of this all had to do with his hair specifically, which is of course been a major, the dawn of Trump time, basically. But that's what got this whole thing started. But I thought while listening to this, and I'm gonna run it back just a little bit before it gets up to that point, and like this whole thing had sort of the energy to me of like this sounds like if you close your eyes, this sounds like it was recorded in a like Midwestern comedy club in the 80s or something. The way he sort of handles his crowd and the way they respond to him. I hope this comes
yeah.
across what I'm saying, but listen to this when I play a little bit of it that leads up to what we just heard.
I'm thinking about doing that. That way I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry. You shaved? No, he shaved it all off. He doesn't have to worry about. How does it look, darling? How does it look, First Lady? How does it, darling? You're the most handsome president. I said, First Lady, am I the most
You see what it sounds like? It sounds like a fucking like road dog act from the boom in the 80s. Like it really, like you can hear the mumbling laughter in the crowd, and he's doing this whole like I said to I don't have to worry about. He takes his hat off and the whole crowd cheers. He's like, yeah, well, it's like I don't know. It's just it's so surreal to me. It's wild.
It's also like it's weird that the Trump cinematic universe has so many extended characters, and it's like a regular person watching would make any sense of it. But what he was doing was roasting Ali Vesher, an MSNBC correspondent with a shaved head. That's what he was doing, which is like this guy has like 200,000 viewers in the afternoon on MSNBC. Like, who could possibly care about who he is, or why would you? But all his fans know. But a regular person in the streets, like, I mean, the last 2 weeks of a presidential campaign, it's like, what's the big issue on your plate, average voter? Is it your pocketbook or healthcare? Nah, I'm really concerned about Ali Vesher's haircut. You know.
Yeah, and also look, Mark. Let's just put it out there. You are a fellow bald. You and Ollie
Mhm.
Vesher are, on the same way. Did you take this personally? This attack by Trump going after his bald head?
No, I mean he should shave, except he has all the plastic surgery scars from having 40 scalp tightening.
Yeah,
So
I told you when you first sent this to me. I'd said like I brought up the it sounds like a '80s comedy club room thing, which is funny to me, and that's how I felt about it when I was watching it for the first time. That's how it played out in my brain until it got to the part at the end of the clip we played at the beginning where the crowd starts chanting, we love you. And then, like, a chill went down my spine again, as so often happens with Trump clips. It's just so, like, I mean, just cultish, Like, it's just,
yeah,
I
roll
don't
out the
know,
calf,
man.
roll out the golden calf. Let's cut a virgin's head off. Let's get to it.
Yeah, well, you know what? we're 2 weeks, T minus 2 weeks from the biggest election in pretty much any person's living memory. It's wild to me that it's already 2 weeks left. Like I've been looking forward to this day for I don't know 4 years or whatever now. But it at the same time, it's one of those things where like it seems like it's been an eternity, but it also feels like it's snuck up on me, kind of like it's wild to me that it's actually here basically. But are we gonna have like blue balls from it though? Because it won't be like a regular election, right? Like how much do you think we're gonna know on election night 2 weeks from now?
Well, there's two universes, right? There's the one in which things make sense, and then there's the one we live in where everything goes Trump's way no matter what happens, right? So,
Right.
in a real universe where things behave normally, it feels like it should be called pretty quickly on election night. In our universe, where Trump controls the Justice Department and two major news networks, who knows? Yeah.
Okay,
Uh,
but there's a gap in my knowledge here, which is filled with gaps. My knowledge is Swiss cheesy in that respect. But I like you said in a universe that makes sense, we should know election night, like any other election night, what happens. But I don't understand how that is the case when there's so many different states doing vote by mail and everything. And I think pretty much all of them, the rule is you have to postmark your vote no later than election day, right? But if you do it on election day, there's like a built-in delay to this, isn't there? Like, isn't there a good chance that a lot of states will still be up in the air as of election night, like all bullshit and nonsensical universe considerations aside, or should that not happen?
some of them, my understanding of this is limited, but some of them don't actually open the mail-in ballots till election day or the day after. So even though they have them sitting in a big box somewhere, so I don't really know how that's going to play out. I think Florida and Pennsylvania, for the big ones, should have them counted on election day. Um, but the same rule applied in 2000, and you know how that went. Yeah.
Right. But
But
as has been the case for a long time now, all of the early numbers are encouraging if you are on the leftward side of things politically in this country. One of the headlines I read earlier today has to do with the great state of Texas, where everything is bigger, Mark's old stomping grounds. And apparently, so far, as of today, still 2 weeks removed from election, but already in Texas, the number of early votes that have been cast in the state of Texas as of today is larger than the total number of voters in Texas who voted for Trump in 2016. So there's already been more people who have early voted in the state of Texas as of right now, 2 weeks out from the election, than were people who voted for Trump in Texas total in 2016. And of course, he won the state then. I feel like that's encouraging.
yeah, I mean, more people voting is good, because it tends to be a more representative leftward, snapshot of the electorate, right? So that's why we like that. But who doesn't like is the people who run Texas. So like statistically,
Right.
Texas is the hardest state to vote in. And then there's
Right.
a lot of weird shit there.
Well,
But
to me, that's kind of the thing. Is like the numbers are astronomical, even in a state where voter suppression is hardcore. Like you said, Texas is one of the most stringent states for suppressing votes, but yet these numbers are still, what they are, even in that state, which I feel like is a good thing. It's obviously still bullshit that they suppress the vote the way that they do. We talked on an episode a couple weeks ago about the whole thing where the governor limited drop off ballots to one per county, which
yeah,
means even the county that Houston is in, which is the fourth largest city in the U.S., even that entire county has one drop box. So all of the voters,
for 5 million
it's like
people,
3 million, 2.5 or 3 million people who have one drop box for their
I thought,
ballots.
but yeah, it's a lot of people. Yeah.
It's a shitload of people. And that's insane. But and also bullshit. It's complete bullshit that is going on. But I'm saying, considering that, and in spite of that, it makes these numbers even more I don't know if impressive is the right word, but you know what I'm saying. Like in that state in particular, having these kind of statistics coming out already is a good
So
thing, I think.
if people don't keep up with this kind of stuff, the demographics in Texas have changed drastically in the last decade. Texas is now a majority minority state, and it turned that way before 2016. And if you know anything about demographic voting patterns, that should mean Democrats are way more competitive, but probably aren't going to be state legislative races because it's gerrymandered all to hell. So same with Congress. But in a state race like governor or president or senator, it should be able to make it a lot closer, provided people are willing to wait in the lines they're going to be required to wait in, which it looks like they kind of are so far. And I don't know, like I don't know how this is going to play out, but it depending on because the people who run elections are elected by the county. So it's going to work out weird where Republicans are going to be suppressing votes in Republican counties. Meanwhile, Democrats who run like Dallas, Austin, and San Antonio and Houston are going to be doing everything they can to make sure people get to exercise their right to vote, which is like, we was talking about this before. It makes me so depressed that like one party is fully against voting. And it's just how it is, in a two-party state where it's just full on semi-fascist at this point. Where we're
Yeah.
at, though.
No, it is. It is where we're at. But there's other encouraging news too, and we've got some some bad news where voting in the election is concerned coming up. But first, some more of the good stuff. Uh, Another thing that's happening right now is going down in South Carolina, where Lindsey Graham, the infamous Lindsey Graham, seems to potentially be in some serious trouble. His Democratic opponent, Jamie Harrison, has been breaking records in campaign fundraising in recent weeks. It's up near $60 million he's raised in the past couple of weeks, with only 2 weeks before the election. Um, so there's real momentum there. Limb out on the street, Mark.
Oh man, don't let me do this to myself. I'm
I
gonna say
know.
zero.
Zero. Yeah, yeah. Hell, I'm mad at myself for asking that question because I feel the same. Like you put a gun to my head and make me pick one, I'm gonna pick Lindsey Graham winning. But it
But
still is encouraging to see Jamie Harrison making the push that he has made so far. Like,
for sure.
um,
What it comes down to is like with the poll, like there was like 14% undecided a couple weeks ago. That's the last time I saw a poll. People don't like Lindsey Graham. Like that's a fairly universal human quality. It's to not find Lindsey Graham trustworthy or likable, which is why he dropped out of the Republican presidential primary, polling at like 0.5% or whatever. The voters in South Carolina don't trust him because he has kind of like I hate to use this word, but a John McCain mavericky sort of voting record. It used to be like a soft on immigration, for example. In the Trump presidency, he really wants to keep his job, right? So he's completely flip flopped on a ton of shit. But it doesn't change the fact that Trump polls like 10% better than Lindsey Graham in South Carolina because Republican voters like her more. Now, when they get voting booth and they see an R next to Lindsey Graham and a D next to a black dude, they're going to vote for Lindsey Graham. So that's
right.
kind of what it boils down to. I feel like, even though they hate him.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. The thing I read that said that the turnout in South, not the turnout, but the numbers you can expect from either side are pretty inelastic in South Carolina, meaning like there's a strong Democratic contingent built into the voter base in South Carolina, but they turn up in every election, they turn out in every election, but it's not enough to actually win basically. And it's like you can get and then even that is like at 40% or something. So if you do everything you can get to like 48 as a Democrat in South Carolina on a statewide level, but that's like the
Yeah,
ceiling according to the polling that I saw. So you have to see like
that's what.
I don't know. I hate to be hopeless ever in any of these situations, but that it seems to be the situation there. But
No, I
I don't
mean,
know.
basically what it boils down to, and Nate Silver, I think, did a long explainer of this. Maybe got this in the same place, but it's like they have Democrats have a hard ceiling of about 47, 48%. So
Right.
you can't get to 50. You need like a strong, like if they had like a super Trumpy third party candidate drawing like 8 or 10% from Graham,
Right.
maybe that's kind of what's happening in Georgia. Um, where this is going to be a runoff no matter what. But it's just hard to get over 50 as a Democrat in South Carolina.
Another thing, not that I'm a huge USA Today fan or anything like that, but USA Today
I like staying in hotels and getting vague news.
I know, get it slid under your door every morning. I know all about it, buddy. USA Today. But they, for the first time in their history, which apparently only goes back to 1982, which is weird to me because I didn't know that, and I was born in 1986, so like USA Today has always existed and always been kind of ubiquitous when you go in every gas station and hotel you go to. And I did not realize that they were that young of a paper or of an institution, but apparently they only date back to 1982. But still, they've never endorsed a presidential candidate until today when they endorsed Joe Biden. They did in 2016 put out a piece urging people not to vote for Donald Trump, but they still didn't endorse Hillary Clinton. But today they endorsed Joe Biden, which is like, whatever. But it's a number of things happening that seem to be in favor of the Democrats in the forthcoming election. Is why I mention it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure how these things work in probabilities, which is very weird to me. But like 538's election forecast has like the odds at like Joe Biden 87-88% to win, and then Trump at 12, which is like a pair pocket aces versus a 2-7 offsuit and Texas Hold'em, right? But 2-7s win sometimes. Right?
That's true, and it would be the most 2020 America thing possible for them to hit a full house 7s over 2s on the river basically in this election. Like I'm still not comfortable.
Like a hurricane hitting Dade County on election day. It's within real possibility.
So going back to Texas, we mentioned that the numbers there are encouraging, very encouraging, but and also furthermore, Trump pretty much, like, if Texas did happen to flip, it's basically over. Like I saw one, I don't think it was 538. It was some other polling site that runs projections and whatnot, and it ran like 15,000 projections or something. And in 99% of the projections where Trump won, I'm not saying he won 99% of the time. I'm saying of all the projections where Trump won, in 99% of those models, he also won Texas. So it's like, you got to have Texas if you're Trump, right? Like losing Texas but still winning the election is the equivalent of, what Iron Man pulled off in the Avengers going up against Thanos, 1 in 14 million or whatever it was.
Buddy, do you want to talk about some like hilariousness? So like say in a wave year like this year, say Democrats take the state legislature in Texas, which I know they're hoping to. So they re-gerrymander and rewrite election law to make it easier to vote. And Texas flips blue, and it's going to flip blue eventually because, like I said, the demographic trends. White people are dying off, and Latinos are coming in, right? So the minute that flips, you're going to see Ted Cruz for a boss in the Electoral College so fucking fast, your head's going to flip. And it's going to scramble everything because if Democrats are winning Florida, California, Texas, and New York, that's basically, you just need like 2 other medium-sized states to get to 270 electoral votes. It's going to scramble shit. So I'm not sure what they're going to do. Again, we talked about before. They could try adopting popular policy positions. They could try that. They're not going to. But
right, but that goes back to what we were saying earlier about Texas's enhanced voter suppression methods that they're employing. Right. Why don't you talk about a couple of those? Like we already talked about the drop boxes. There's also, it was just ruled they can reject mail-in ballots or over signatures being wrong or something like that.
Yeah. So some states have signature match, which Texas does, which is ridiculous because I don't even know. We don't even teach cursive in schools anymore. I don't know where people are getting their signatures from.
That actually is not true, Mark. This is related to nothing except you just brought up cursive. Blew my fucking mind. I've got a 3rd grader here in the Southern California public school system, and he's having to learn cursive, which I I know. When I
I
saw
thought
it on the syllabus at the first year, because they sent all this stuff out because it's like distance learning, it's online elementary school because of COVID. They sent all that out, and the teacher actually put in parentheses beside the area where it said, cursive on Wednesdays or whatever. She put in parentheses, yes, we teach cursive in third grade, and because you could tell they've gotten a million questions from parents like, y'all really make them learn cursive? But apparently they still do, which I think is the dumbest fucking thing ever. But
we got
whatever.
we got voice to text. What the
I
hell
know,
is
dude. It's so dumb. Like what we grew up in a time where like everybody learned cursive was a whole thing. You had to learn it. Had it ever mattered, for you? Like, who gives a fuck about cursive? It's one step removed from calligraphy, which is now an art form. Basically, it's not a thing anybody takes seriously. It's so dumb.
you got
Uh,
you got your third graders to learn cursive so you can sit by a campfire with this cool pen and write a love letter home during the war.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it's a yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Anyway,
But I digress. Go
my
ahead.
signature doesn't match anything, right? It's different every time. Basically, there's a few things that stay the same. I know I'm not going to demonstrate it for you guys because apparently it's still determined the course of my life, even at a point where I sign everything with pin numbers. Um, but yeah, so Texas has signature match. But what a lot of states will do is if your ballot's rejected via signature match, they will like let you know that you can come back and fix it, right? To prove you are in fact you and you did want to vote this way. So what a federal court ruled is like Texas can reject ballots for signatures not matching, which I bet is going to be much more strict that if your signature is listed as opposed to Jeffrey, right? And then you don't get any like opportunity to fix it. So they can throw your ballot in the trash and not tell you they did it. That's what the federal appeals court. 3 Republican judges, 2 appointed by Bush, 1 by Trump. I think.
Do you know? Do you know if most of the voters in Texas, when the signature comes into play, is it digital? Is it one of those little stylus pens on a digital screen version of
No,
signatures? Do you know if that's the case or
my
not?
understanding is on mail-in ballots.
Okay, all right. So it's handwritten. All right.
Yeah.
Well, it's still fucked up, but I'm just if it was that version of it, like that everybody who's ever done one of those digital signatures using a stylus at the grocery store or whatever knows that that shit is completely unusable for the most part. Like it just looks ridiculous. But if you're talking about mail-in ballots, people sitting at home that doing it with a pen, that's at least better than that. But that's still stupid, though.
Yeah.
So now it's not just Texas. Of course, it's not. There's fuckery going on in Pennsylvania and Florida, all kinds of important states. Apparently, in Florida, there was just some big Russian hacking operation that happened with voters there, or something like
Well,
that. What's the deal with that?
don't know who did it. So that's like there's a lot of trolling and weird black hat shit on the internet. Just people do Joker shit because I think it's funny. So I don't accuse anyone of doing it. But a bunch of voter information was hacked from Florida. Apparently, data came from 2018, and they dropped it on a Russian message board, right? Which would be a really funny thing to do if you're an alt-right hacker, dude, to make the libs go crazy. Um, but it's a lot of like the main concern here is one, voter intimidation. We'll get to that in a second because people are getting weird emails.
Right.
But basically, your name, address, your party affiliation, all that stuff. The computer doesn't track who you vote because who you vote for because we have a secret ballot in America. But identity is going to be really bad for identity theft because 15 million, only 13.5 million people registered to vote in Florida in 2018. So this might be some duplicates in this data, but it's basically everybody had their information stolen. And the upshot, this might be a coincidence or it might be from the same data leak, but registered Democrats are getting threatening emails in Florida from dummied email addresses that purport to be from the Proud Boys. And let me read this for you. Roxanne, we're in possession of all your information, email address, telephone. You're currently registered Democrat, and we know this because we've gained access to the entire voting infrastructure. You will vote for Trump on election day, or we will come after you. Change your party affiliation to Republican to let us know you received our message, and we'll comply. We will know which candidate you voted for. I would take this seriously if I were you. Now, you know,
Yeah. Well, I want
uh,
to my knee jerk reaction is to tell people who get emails like that to to say fuck them mentally and go vote, in response just to that, if for nothing else. Like, I know if I got that, that would be my reaction. Fuck y'all, you ain't gonna do shit, because I think it's extremely unlikely that they are gonna do shit. But at the same time, you know, if they actually did, if you're a 45-year-old single woman living in Florida and you get that message, and then you go out and vote for Biden anyway, and then the Proud Boys show up at your door, that's obviously a nightmare. But I just don't. It's super fucked up. But to me, in my mind, it's the same as receiving one of those like Nigerian prince emails. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those scam emails where it's like, send me your bank account and we'll make $2 million together because I'm a prince in Nigeria, and everybody knows about that. The ones who that they send to memas all the time or whatever. This is the equivalent of that during the election.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that, but at the same time, it's fucked up that it happens, and it's also easy for me to say, but
Yeah.
yeah, it should make you want to vote even more, in my opinion. The fact that they so clearly don't want you to should encourage you to do it even more, because that means that they're scared. They're scared of what's going to happen if you do vote, which is all the more reason to do it.
Yeah, but that's the redneck in you, that's right. I'm
I
gonna keep
know.
a shotgun and a can of beans in my trailer, ready with a go bag, ready to go off the grid. But these are
You're right.
yes, this is fake. This isn't from the Proud Boys. I'd bet a lot of money it's not the Proud Boys. And they have no way to know how you actually voted, so they're lying in the email. But the Bush Gore election was decided by 500 votes in Florida. So if this works on a couple hundred people, it could be a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, I could easily sit here and go on a whole diatribe about fuck them, they're all cowards anyway, they ain't gonna do shit, fucking go out, shove it in their face and do what you need to do anyway. But I don't I'm not gonna shit talk somebody who is actually intimidated by something. It's what makes it so fucked up in the first place. If it works on 200 people, that could be the difference, and that's fucking scary. Like, they're really pulling out all the stops with this election, playing every voter suppression card they have. And again, every single one of them has to do with suppressing the vote, which could not send a more clear signal that the more people that vote, the worse it is for them, which
Yeah.
shows you how much actual support they have in this country, and they know it, in my opinion.
But one of my takeaways is how brazen this is, because unless you're some expert hacker, like tracking this stuff's really straightforward and easy for IP addresses and stuff. So whoever did this is going to get caught probably. And this kind of, FBI are still cops, but they're institutionalists, and this kind of stuff would drive you flipping the bird like this would piss them off. So they're basically counting on Trump making sure the Justice Department doesn't come after them for this shit. Because if I had to guess who this is, it's probably some college Republican operation. Run by some Roger Stone acolyte, right? He's down there in Florida talking to college Republicans a lot. So maybe one of them will make their name, be the next Roger Stone, some 21-year-old kid who smokes cigars, going to Florida State.
Hey, speaking of smoking cigars, we didn't have this on the outline, but let's talk about it just briefly here. Turns out Rush Limbaugh's about to die from lung cancer. Pop bottles, everybody. I don't give a fuck. It's true. He's a very loud and proud cigar smoker. I'm sitting here hitting my vape. Far be it from me to be a hypocrite, but I'm never going to go on the air and tell people that smoking isn't bad for you. The danger of secondhand smoke is bullshit, and really it's just fine, and it's no more dangerous than eating carrots. All of those things are real things that Rush Limbaugh said in the past about smoking, and now he's got stage 4 lung cancer and has admitted himself that he's going to die from it soon. So that's cool.
Yeah, I didn't stretch it because I didn't know we're going to dance on his grave on this, but
no, we hadn't even planned to talk about it, but you said that and it got my brain in that mode, so I just wanted to bring it up. Fuck Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah, probably no single person, him or Newt Gingrich probably was more responsible for where we're at as a country than that motherfucker. So I will try not to disappoint my mom, but publicly gloating over the deaths of people, no matter how bad they are, but I will not pretend to shed a tear. Let's put it that way.
Right. Okay, so moving on here, there's ostensibly one presidential debate left. It's actually Thursday, and I believe it starts at 6 Pacific, so our start time will be fine. We'll do a pregame for it like we did last time. If it happens, because it turns out the people that run the debates, the debate commission, they actually do know about the technological capability of muting someone's microphone, because they have come out and announced that in the next debate, whoever is not being formally addressed at that time, whichever candidate is not being formally addressed with a question at that time, their microphone will be muted until it's their turn. And as you can imagine, Trump is not into that at all. He has been ranting and raving about how unfair this is. Not just this, he's also been going after the moderator for this debate. He's doing everything he can to undermine the legitimacy of this debate before it happens, which is just par for the course for him. But some people think that that indicates that he will end up pulling out of it entirely and won't even go forward with it. And so, what do you think is going to end up happening with this?
The debate commission did find awesome workaround, because the idea was like they didn't want the moderator to have to press mute, so it's going to be a clock. It's just a clock, right? It's like a play clock in football or a shot clock in basketball. You get your 2 minutes, and then the mic goes off, and then you can't argue with the digital clock. So, but it's gonna be funny. 'Cause he's definitely going to keep yelling. He'll probably bring his own megaphone and be hidden under his desk or some shit. I mean, if I was advising his campaign, I'd be like, you have to do the debate. You're down a bunch, and
it's his last chance to address like the entire country in this capacity, in that way, prior to the election.
Yeah.
So,
40,
yeah.
If you can believe the poll that he's down 10%, 40 million people have already voted. Those are going to skew more Democratic because of mail-in voting. Only like 130 million people voted last election, so we're already like a third of that turnout. So like you got to do the debate and hope Biden literally has a stroke in the middle of it, because that's like your only hope. If he pulls out, he doesn't like looking weak, so maybe that'd be why he'd pull out, because it's more important to them than actually trying to win. But yeah,
what do you think the chances he'll walk over in the general vicinity of Biden's mic and just scream towards it? Like, it's going to drive him insane not being able to talk. Like we're gonna if nothing else, we're gonna get a shitload of memes out of this. I feel like Trump's body language while he's being forced to be silent, or even if he's yelling, is not being heard.
Yeah,
it's going to be internet comedy gold.
Because Biden's been holed up all week during debate prep, memorizing his answers to get him under 2 minutes, and Trump's not exactly how do I put this? A disciplined communicator, right? that 2 minute limit, he might be in the middle of his second sentence at 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, dude, 2 minutes goes by quickly. Apparently, also 5 months goes by quickly, because that's how long it's been since there was any stimulus relief from the pandemic. I actually didn't even do the math. I just acted like I did, and I said 5 months, but it was in March, right? So it's been 5 or 6 months since anything actually got done.
Yeah.
They've been arguing over the next version of it for weeks, months now, and they continue to argue. Today was a self-imposed deadline that Nancy Pelosi set, and basically said, if by today we don't have an agreement on the table, then it ain't going to happen prior to the election, which is not necessarily the case. That could be a political bluff that she's making, but either way, who the fuck knows when any actual relief is going to come from the government on this. And of course, fuck Turtle in Chief Mitch McConnell is doing everything he can to prevent it from happening, actively campaigning for the Republicans in the Senate to not work on the stimulus, because according to him, it could upset the Supreme Court process or whatever the fuck. It's complete bullshit. But the numbers they're arguing over are like, they're so large. It's almost like made up, the difference between the two, right? Because it's like 2.2 million versus trillion, 2.2 trillion versus 1.8 trillion or something like that. The differences between the numbers, but they have all these other like smaller disagreements within the larger bill that they just can't come
Yeah.
together on.
I'm going to say something I've never actually said in my life before, but good job, Nancy Pelosi, because here's the difference in these bills, right? This is from the Americans for Tax Fairness, because it's not just, like you said, it's not just the amount in the bill, but what they're going to spend it on. And basically, Republicans want to spend it on normal shit you'd think, corporate giveaways,
tax cuts, protecting businesses and corporations, protecting from liability with sick employees, stuff like that.
So here's the HEROES Act, which is the Democratic version, versus the HEALS Act, which is the Republicans, right? The Dem version would repeal the $135 billion tax giveaway to millionaires. Senate Republicans would keep it. The Dem bill extends unemployment insurance at $600 per week. Republican bill reduces it to $200 a week. Dem bill provides $900 billion for state and local governments. Republicans none. Dems $117 billion in additional support to Medicaid. Republicans none. Dems $13 an hour hazard pay for essential workers. And comparison to that, like Trey said, the Senate version gives corporate immunity to coronavirus lawsuits. There's a moratorium on evictions and foreclosures versus none. $3.6 billion for election assistance versus none. And then for some reason, the Republican version also wants to gut Social Security and Medicare just because they can throw it in there. So this was a poison pill of a bill. They never wanted to pass it. They never wanted to pass anything. They wanted people to say the $1.8 trillion number to make it sound like it's close.
Right.
And it's not close.
Right. And that the money for state and local governments on the Democrat side, which on the Republican side is zero, because the Republicans call that's what they refer to as the blue state bailout, which it's so wild to me because they're effectively just saying like, hey, fuck those people. You know what I mean? Like even like within cities in your own state or whatever, they're just outright saying, if you live in a city, you deserve to die from this, or you deserve to not be assisted from it. And they just wear that shit on their sleeve, and everybody's just completely actually frame it when they talk about it, but that's what they're saying. It's crazy to me how on board they all are with the idea of the other side suffering, like when we're all Americans.
Yeah. That's the Reverend authoritarian is they just want to see other people hurt. But it's not even really like, I mean, for better or for worse, California and places like California and New York and, Oregon and Washington have state income taxes. They have their own money, right? A state like Louisiana or Texas doesn't. They're hugely reliant on the federal government for all their funding.
Yeah, right.
So like California, a lot of people around the country know this, but when the unemployment bonuses ran out, California extended it on their own. They reached $300 because it's what the state could afford, and now it's ran out. But like they were able to pay people unemployment themselves. Texas could never do that. They wouldn't do it, but they also couldn't. So it doesn't even make sense. But can you imagine like shoe on the other foot, like anybody on the left talking about? I mean, you'll hear dipshits make jokes about flyover country, but you would never hear someone say like Trump's like California's going to hell. Can you imagine, some pick somebody on the left, Ocasio-Cortez being like, Tennessee should burn in hell? Can you?
Right. No, dude. Yeah, you're 100% correct. Like, it would never play with it. Well, I mean, fuck, man. That's kind of what the basket full of deplorables situation was, right? Was like that version of what we're talking about. Hillary said that, and it like sank her immediately. But yet they just out front, completely on Main Street, are like, no, fuck California, fuck the liberal cities and all this stuff. When, as we have pointed out before on the show, there's millions of people in California who love Trump, who are hardcore Republicans. Roughly 40% of them probably are on their side. And I don't understand how that doesn't infuriate those people. If you're a Trump-loving Californian, and again, they are legion, they are outnumbered by liberal Californians, but there's still a shitload of Trump-loving Californians. And if you're one of those people, I don't understand how you reconcile his obvious disdain for the entire state. They just rejected any kind of federal assistance related to the wildfires that happened in the entire state of California, including all the rural areas or whatever. I don't understand how that doesn't drive you fucking crazy if you're on that side of it. But I
but
don't know. They seem unaffected by it.
yeah, the only way I can think about it is like they hear him as bad mouthing Southern California and the Bay Area, and which they also hate too. So
Right, but it affects the entire state that you
I
also live in,
I, I know, Troy.
Now I know you know, Mark, but I'm just saying it's fucking
Convinced. You convinced
it's
me, Troy.
I know it's crazy. Um Speaking of crazy, the Breonna Taylor travesty continues to unfold. Apparently, and actually, fuck it. You just tell us the situation, Mark, so I don't butcher it.
So grand juries are secret, but one are supposed to be secret. But one of them filed a lawsuit to be able to tell her side of the story because she felt the attorney general misrepresented what happened in the grand jury, and she won her lawsuit. She was joined with another grand juror also felt duped. But basically, what she's saying is that what the AG said was complete bullshit. That the grand jury was given a very narrow scope and wasn't allowed to consider charges against the other police officers or any other charges at all. Let me just so grand juries are impaneled for a duration of time. They hear multiple cases, so you need to know that because she has a reference of being in a grand jury for a bunch of other cases and also this one, right? So she knows what it was supposed to look like. And here's what she says: being one of the jurors in the Breonna Taylor case was a learning experience. The 3 weeks of service leading up to that presentation showed how the grand jury normally operates. Breonna Taylor case was quite different. After hearing the Attorney General Daniel Cameron's press conference, and with my duty as a grand juror being over, my duty as a citizen compelled action. The grand jury was not presented any charges other than the 3-1 endangerment charges against Detective Hankinson. The grand jury did not have homicide offenses explained to them. The grand jury never heard anything about those laws. Self-defense or justification was never explained either. And it's like it goes on, but basically everything that he told us happened in the grand jury was bullshit. Yeah. So
Right. That last thing you said, everything he said happened in the grand jury process is absolute bullshit. That's the problem with it, right? Because, like, to me, I feel like the expectation should be for everyone that a grand jury, they rule based on what is put in front of them. Like that's how, of course, a grand jury can't, like, they can't press their charges, or they can't, rule on the legitimacy of things that are not brought before them.
And
But the problem here is that this guy presented it as though that had happened, as though they had been given all these additional charges and declined to prosecute them or to indict. They declined to indict them, but that is not what happened. They were only given a very limited set of charges that they did indict upon, and that's the problem.
Yeah, and I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know.
Right.
Maybe if they had a better understanding, they could have filed their own. I don't really know how this process works, but nobody on the grand jury was a lawyer, and here's how she describes it. Questions were asked about additional charges, and the grand jury was told there would be none because the prosecutors didn't feel they could make them stick. So the prosecutor handheld them to around the question to just indicting on the charges they gave them. So
Right. Okay, but see, to me, that is what you would expect to happen.
mhm.
To me, the way you just outlined it, where they're like, "Oh, we couldn't, we." I don't. You shouldn't expect a grand jury to just like know the circumstances of the whole thing and point out to the prosecutors, "Hey, aren't you missing some stuff here?" Like that. Of course, they don't do that. Like, you put something in front of them with a set of facts, and they decide based on that one thing, which is what they did. But then later, this dude came out and made it sound as though they were presented multiple different sets of facts with charges and opted to not indict, a certain number of them, which is not what happened. Those things never got brought before them in the first place. Right? I'm not a lawyer either, but isn't that how it goes?
There you go. Sorry, I'm back. My technical difficulties. Yeah, you have it correct as per my understanding. Like they didn't, they just basically prosecutors, like everybody's heard, who's watched a Law and Order has heard the expression, a prosecutor can bet a ham sandwich, right? So like
Exactly. Right.
the idea of telling a grand jury up front that you shouldn't indict someone tells you what the prosecutor would prefer happen, because they just listen to the prosecutor, you know?
Right. All right. Well, hey, let's go to the comments over here, see what everybody's talking about. I don't know what this means, Mark. I'm only putting it up here because you're from Texas, so maybe you do know what it means. Kim Coble claims that actually the lieutenant governor has all the power in Texas. Do you know what Kim's referring to there?
Yeah, so Texas has a vestige of Reconstruction. So after the Civil War, is my understanding of what happened. The Yankees, as it were, had the power to install governors in the South. So what they did was they wrote the state constitution where the lieutenant governor oversees the legislature and has a lot of power. And basically the main thing the governor does is oversee executions. So yeah, she's right. The lieutenant governor in Texas is very powerful.
All right. Michael Goger, in a comment replying to himself, says, after 2016, I don't trust polls. And yeah. Michael, I don't think anybody can blame you. I mean, I don't either. I'm very, very gun shy after 2016. I'm hesitant to declare anything a done deal after what happened. But I also think that this is a good thing. The fact that you feel that way, and the fact that I feel that way, and the fact that a lot of other people on the left feel that way is a good thing, because it leads directly to all this crazy turnout and everything that we were talking about earlier, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you really, voting is an irrational act, so you shouldn't. I mean, like, you know, everybody knows one vote probably doesn't, like, you vote as a block, or you don't vote at all, or your vote doesn't matter at all, because that's how coalitions and whatnot work. So like, voting is an individual sort of, you know, as an individual is like a holy act, like a duty to democracy, like a civic duty, but it shouldn't affect whether you vote or not anyway, because your one vote's unlikely to do anything. So like, really, no one should ever listen to polls. You should go vote as an expression of your citizenship and as an obligation.
Yep. From YouTube, Satori Mystic says, you can't reason a person out of a position that they did not use reason to get in the first place, and stupidity is unrecognizable to those putting it into action. And I think you're 100% correct. It's the whole catch-22, right? It's the classic 22 argument. Like, the only way for someone to be crazy is if they do not realize they are crazy, and stupidity applies the same way, right? Like, you can't reason with a lot of these people because you're not starting from the same place, right? Like, the only reason they're in a position for you to argue with them in the first place is because they're stupid. So they're not all stupid. Some of them are very smart, and the smart ones are way more nefarious. But the stupid ones, the only reason they're in that position to begin with is because they're stupid. And that is the same reason you will not be able to actually affect them or change their minds.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't fall into the trap of assuming all, like, for example, that all white supremacists are stupid, because they read a lot of books. They're just like the wrong books. And like Stephen Miller and Richard Spencer they were friends at Duke, and they graduated from Duke, which is a good school. So yeah, but in general, yeah, you're right. No one knows if they're crazy, which makes me laugh, because as far as I know, we're not doing this right now. I could be talking to a mirror in a mental hospital. Right. How would I know?
Keith Edward Barry says ham salad is fucking great. And yeah. I'm with you, Keith. I'm with you on that. Don't know where that came from, but I'm all about it, buddy. I love ham salad. Braden Wells says, talk about Marquita Bradshaw. Marquita Bradshaw is running for Senate in my beloved Tennessee. And I'm, hopeful for her chances. I'm a Tennessee guy, so it's the same thing I'm a Tennessee liberal. So the same thing applies with politics and football, which means I get hopeful every time and usually end up disappointed and let down and furious at the end of the day. So we'll see what happens, but I like Marquita, and I am hopeful for her chances, and we'll see what happens. Do you know anything about her, Mark, or is this the first time you've heard of her?
Nah, I just Googled her in polls, and I won't bring
you won't tell. Yeah, I know. Well, but she already had a big upset victory in the primary over James Mackler, who was kind of the establishment candidate. And look, I'll just say right now, I like James Mackler. I did some events for James Mackler. I know him personally. He is a good dude. But I love Marquita too. But Marquita came out of nowhere and sort of defeated him and got some hype around her or whatnot. But that don't make none of the races are looking good in my home state. I'm so jealous of the states that seem to be in play, like South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, because Tennessee seems to be just flying straight down that dumbass fairway, man, that hardcore conservative party line. So
Yeah.
it just is what it is.
Yeah.
Sam Martin says, "Can we get the podcast form of the show put up sooner? It's hard for me to catch it live." Yeah, Sam, that's on me. We should. Obviously, I can't. I combine, for people that don't know, the podcast form of the show, I combine both episodes into 1 week, right? So it's the week of whatever. So I can't put it up before Thursday night. But what usually ends up happening, because I'm a sack of shit, is it doesn't go up until like Monday, because I forget that I didn't do it until it's too late. And all I can say is, Sam, I will endeavor to do better, because yeah, it should go up earlier. So I will try to do better on that. NM from YouTube says they make cannabis carts for that jewel now. I know they do, as I've said before on here. That would, y'all don't want, I can't imagine if we started the show at 5 and this had weed in it and I was sitting here smoking it, like, y'all would see the paramedics show up by the end of the show. Like, I would be in complete just fetal position, crying, just communing with the void. I can't handle that level of weed. I got no problem with weed. It should be legal, of course. I just can't. I just have a low tolerance.
We've talked about when we had Noelle before, and she said she was running for state house in Tennessee, and said that every question, the main question she got from all voters is about legalizing weed. And then I'm realizing, like, inevitably, all of our comments lead us back to talking about weed. I'm just sitting here thinking, why won't anybody run on legalizing weed win like 80-20?
I know. No, dude. No, you're right. Like, why don't, especially Democrats, they do that? It's like the most obvious cart to which you should hitch your horse, right? If you're a Democrat, because what you're saying is 100% true. I don't get why they don't do that. Like, still, what? Because even, as we talked about before, I have interviewed the Republican state level congressman who authored a medical marijuana bill in Tennessee. I've interviewed those guys, and they both said that their actual constituents, rural Republican Tennesseans, they have no opposition to a marijuana bill. Like, opposition basically doesn't exist to legalizing weed anymore. There's people that don't give a fuck, and then there's people who are for it. It's the easiest possible ball for Democrats to pick up and run with, and I will never understand why they don't do it. It makes no fucking sense to me.
I mean, I can hypothesize none of them will be pleasant, but yeah.
All right. School Tardy from YouTube says, "Mark, you know everything. You really are smart, Mark." And I don't know exactly when this comment got posted, but I bet it was after the previous comment about the lieutenant governor in Texas, because I thought a similar thing to School Tardy here when it first got brought up. Like, I don't think you've ever been stumped on here, Mark. You keep trying to act like you're not smart, Mark.
No.
But every single episode, something comes up, and I'm like, Mark, do you know what this is? Because I don't, because I'm dumb. And every single time, you're like, yeah, I know exactly what they're referring to, and let me break it down for you on a bullet point by bullet point basis.
That particular thing I knew because I moved to Texas in 2000, right before George W. was elected president. And I remember reading up on what, like, his actual accomplishments were, and it was nothing. And I was like, you guys, this guy isn't even a real governor. You're going to make him president? It was very weird. He's just doing ribbon cuttings. And like, they made a big deal about him executing that woman, because the first woman executed in a while. He had that awful gaffe. It was with Tucker Carlson. Back when Tucker Carlson was middle of the road mainstream.
I know.
Do you remember this anecdote, Trey?
No, I meant just that because he used to be. You're right. Like it's wild because people forget that, but he used to be more like middle of the road or whatever.
He was the decent. He was the original conservative, like compassionate conservative type dude.
Yeah.
And so when he did this interview with George W. about like George W. They're about to execute this woman. And say if you had something you could say to Carla Tucker, I think was her name or something, what would you say? And I mean, what do you think she would say to you? And he goes, "Oh, please help me." He made fun of her, begging him to not kill her. And it was like a controversy for like a day and a half, and then he killed her, and then no one gave a shit. It was like
Somebody on death row. What do you think she would say to you if she could? I don't know. Probably, oh, please don't kill me in front of all these people. I don't want to die. It's like making the jerk off motion while he's doing it. I don't know. Probably, please don't execute me.
And also, the dynamic of it was, she had all these like 700 Club type Republicans because she had gone hardcore Christian right. They were coming to beg for her life because she had found Jesus, and he told the right to fuck off so he could kill her. It was like really weird thing.
Yeah. Hi, well, from YouTube, Henderson Team Loan says, will y'all be on election night? Push Lee's. I'm assuming that's supposed to be police.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course we will. It's a Tuesday, so we'll be here each and every Tuesday and Thursday. We will be here live on election night. We were talking earlier before we went live on this episode about what we should do on election night. And it's only 2 weeks away, and we still don't know. That's how we operate here at the Skews, but we will definitely be here, and we're going to try to do a like live running update type of thing. Mark pointed out that when we go live is right when a lot of polls close on the East Coast and everything. So hopefully there'll be some good shit coming in that we could talk about. So we're going to try to, like basically live stream it and just roll with it and see what happens. But we will absolutely be here without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not sure anything they called yet. I do remember my election night 2016 story was. Have I told this on the show yet, Trey? It was opening night for Lakers, and so I got on the train, the North Hollywood train station, to go down to Staples Center. And by the time I got off the train, which must have been about 6:30, all hell was breaking loose because they called Florida. So theoretically we could know something by the end of the show, but we'll basically be filming that dead time between polls close and when we know anything.
Yeah. This is a take I did not see coming, frankly. Harper Hudson's, Trey, I love you guys, but take it back about cursive writing. Take back what you said about cursive writing. I will not, Harper. I refuse to take it back. If you appreciate the beauty of cursive writing and choose later to focus upon it as an artistic endeavor, then I support you fully. But children should not be forced to learn that archaic, fancy ass bullshit that don't amount to nothing. I'm sorry. I don't get it.
Typing. Teach them typing.
Yeah, right. Yes, they don't. We make our boys do typing stuff, and I'm sure, I don't know, maybe they just haven't got to it yet. I'm sure they have like typing courses now, because honestly, hell, I remember taking typing courses in rural Tennessee when I was in elementary school. But my sons haven't been given typing courses yet, other than the ones we make them take. But they have been given cursive courses, and yeah, that's ridiculous. Like, typing is far more relevant to all of their lives. So I don't know. It sure is pretty though.
Typing was given an elective in our school, and I chose to take band over typing. And here's the thing: so I write for a living in theory, and I still hunt and peck, and I also can't play yakety sax for shit. So I don't know what the point of any of it.
I'm going back to NM, the commenter from earlier, talking about weed. I said I have a low tolerance. NM's trying to encourage me. He says, everybody starts with a low tolerance. You got to push through that, man. And I appreciate your encouragement, but I just don't think I can. I don't know that I'm up to it. Let's see here. What else do we got? Randy Albright says, I love to smoke weed. There again, you can always count on Randy, dude. I can't, God damn it, I can't. What did Randy say? A different Randy said something in one of our recent episodes, and I was like, that is so Randy. And I can't remember what it was, but but this is also so Randy. Just a classic Randy comment. I love to smoke weed. I know you do, Randy. You didn't even have to say it.
If you want to, rule of thumb, if you want to buy some dirt weed or find somebody who'll buy 16-year-old's beer, go find a Randy.
Find a Randy. That's right. The Randy should have their own app, man. The Randy at? Where you chase down, fucking, you need a weed dealer, somebody to do some drywall, you know?
It's a Task Rabbit slash Uber Eats slash Instacart for a guy to
Yeah.
come over, sell you some dirt weed, bring you some Miller High Life, and do some
Yeah.
drywall.
Yeah, yeah. The official app of Randy's everywhere. That's what they need. Oh man. God damn. Oh, let's see if I can find one more for us to end on. Looking through this. Yeah. This ain't it, but I won't put this up here. Bridget Furman says his ex head writer corrupted Tucker. I don't believe that. Tucker's complacent in it. Fuck Tucker Carlson. I'm not going to off put his accountability on his head writer.
He knows what he's. I mean, the
He
guys.
knows what he's doing.
Guys from the Bay Area went to private schools. He's heir to the Swanson chicken fortune, the frozen dinner fortune. Like he's not. He comes to his white nationalism from a very brainiac, cynical place. He's not worried about his job going to an immigrant. He fell into being a Nazi because that's what got him more money.
Yep. All right. Well, I want to close on this. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Mark, but this is what I want to do. Sarah Marie says, Mark, tell us what you think about Newt. And I assume they meet Newt Gingrich. Maybe there's a Newt Jenkins or something out there that I'm not aware of, but presumably, tell us what you think about Newt Gingrich, Mark. And then
I presume this is because earlier I said either Rush Limbaugh or him is the most responsible for where we're at in the country right now.
Yes.
So they rode to winning the House and the contract with America. They shut down the government over a spending bill, which is why the only reason Bill Clinton met Monica Lewinsky is because nobody who was paid could go to work. So they had interns doing like White House jobs, right? He drug us down in this culture war bullshit. Like they were doing congressional hearings about whether Hillary Clinton had been foster killed. The Republican Party's descent in this dystopian fucking conspiracy cult started in the 90s. And he was the leader of the party. And also, you can't find a better guy than somebody who would leave his second wife when she got diagnosed with cancer for his third wife. Just all around lovely dude who posts pictures, the most heavily face-tuned Instagram pictures I've ever seen in my entire life. It makes him look like a 34-year-old lady. And just a great guy.
Well, there you have it. Smart Mark's opinion on Newt Gingrich. All right. Well, thank you all very much. We'll be back in 48 short hours to pregame the final presidential debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. We'll see you here on Thursday evening. That's it for the